The galactic conclave had convened in confidence. 17 species, representing 42 star systems, gathered aboard the neutral station Orithvel in the outer rim of the Mira cluster. The chamber was enormous, a bowl of bioluminescent stone carved to accommodate every body type from the spindly Urith to the boulder-like Grendak, and yet, the mood inside it felt small. Small and smug. "The humans will negotiate," said Commander Varric, his scaled fingers laced together above the central table. He was Ketheri, tall, cold-blooded in both physiology and temperament, and currently the undisputed voice of the Galactic War Council. His colony ships had already crossed into the outer bands of the Sol system. His orbital blockade around Luna was already cutting Earth's supply lines to its outer colonies. He believed he held every card. "They are industrious," Varric continued, addressing the chamber. "Stubborn, even. But they are rational. Their economy is strained. Their colonies on Kepler 62F are starving. Their leadership will not allow pride to become extinction." He paused for effect, letting his tongue flicker. "They will come to this table. They will concede the Hesper belt. They will pay the resource tax. And they will be grateful we left them their homeworld." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. None of them had fought humans before. That was their first mistake. The message from Earth arrived 6 hours later. Not through a diplomat. Not through an embassy channel. Not through any of the back channels Varric's intelligence corps had spent months cultivating within Earth's fractured political spheres. It came through the emergency military frequency, a channel reserved, by galactic convention, exclusively for declarations of war. The conclave fell silent. On the central projection, a single human appeared. He was older, silver-haired, with the kind of stillness that belonged to men who had stopped being afraid of anything years ago. He wore a dark uniform with no decorative markings save for 4 stars on each shoulder and a small blue and white patch above his chest, a circle, a planet, a single olive branch. Fleet Admiral Nathan. He did not sit. He did not smile. He did not perform diplomacy. "Commander Varric," he said, his voice carrying the flat calm of a man reading coordinates rather than delivering a threat. "You have placed a blockade around our moon. You have severed supply routes to 14 of our colonial settlements. You have done this under the assumption that Earth would respond by sending envoys." He let one breath pass. "Earth is not sending envoys." He reached beside him and pressed something off-screen. The projection behind him flickered and revealed a vessel. The chamber reacted immediately. The Urith delegate pressed all 4 of its hands to its face. The Grendak elder made a sound like grinding stone. Even Varric, who prided himself on composure, leaned forward in spite of himself. The ship on screen was not elegant. It did not have the sweeping curves of Ketheri cruisers or the geometric grace of Urith carrier wings. It was massive, angular, and dark, like someone had taken a mountain range and taught it to move through space. Its hull bore the scars of at least 3 previous engagements, each scar deliberately left unrepaired. Its forward array, what the humans, apparently, called the Aegis battery, was currently powered down. Apparently. "This is the UNSS Thermopylae," Admiral Nathan said. "She is the first of her class. She was built in the asteroid belt over 11 years. Her crew number's 4,216. She carries enough ordnance to reduce a moon to rubble in 72 hours and enough shielding to survive a sustained assault from your entire current fleet." He paused. "Not for drama. Simply to let mathematics settle. She is already en route to your blockade line." Varric ordered his intelligence officers to verify. They verified. UNSS Thermopylae had departed Earth orbit 14 days prior, the same day Varric had announced the blockade publicly. Humans, it turned out, had not spent those 14 days drafting diplomatic letters. They had spent them loading ammunition. "This is a bluff," said the Urith delegate, though its voice wobbled. "Humans bluff. It is documented behavior. Pull up their historical combat record, someone suggested from the back. A junior analyst did. The chamber went quiet again. Humans had been in 3 interstellar conflicts before this moment, all minor, all considered insignificant footnotes by galactic historians. In each case, the pattern was identical. Humans absorbed the first blow, recalculated, then responded with force that seemed disproportionate until you realized they were not trying to win the battle. They were trying to ensure there was no second battle. The Fenori incident. Settled in 9 days. The Fenori fleet had been 3 times larger. The Barath claim wars. Humans had been outgunned, outmaneuvered, and cut off. They had won anyway. Historians still debated how. The Siege of Callisto. 36 hours. The attackers had not retreated. There had simply been no attackers left. They don't negotiate from a position of weakness, said Varek's senior strategist, a female Ketheri named Soras who had studied human history longer than anyone else in the room. Her voice was careful. Tight. They never negotiate from a position of weakness. They view negotiation as a transaction between equals. If they perceive themselves as anything less than equal, they don't negotiate at all. She looked at Varek. They fight. Then we match them, Varek said, though something had shifted in his posture. 1 warship against a blockade fleet of. Sir. Soras interrupted him, which she had never done before. That ship's forward battery array, the humans call it the Aegis battery. I pulled the technical schematics from an old intelligence file. Do you know what it is? Varek said nothing. It is a MAC cannon. Magnetic accelerator cannon. It fires a projectile the size of a city block at 4% the speed of light. She let that sit. Our best shielding is rated for pulse weapons and plasma at a fraction of that velocity. We do not have a shield that stops physics, Commander. The chamber was silent for a long time. It was the Grendak elder who finally spoke, ancient, slow, but respected. I have lived through 4 galactic conflicts, he rumbled. I have watched species make the same error, again and again. They see something small and assume it is weak. Humans are not small, we simply did not look closely enough. He turned his massive head toward Varek. I watched the Admiral's face when he announced the blockade. He expected fear. He expected pleading. He expected humans to send someone to beg. He exhaled slowly. Instead, they sent that. Admiral Nathan's second message arrived 4 hours later. It was shorter. The Thermopylae will reach your blockade line in approximately 31 hours. At that point, Captain Elena Voss will issue 1 instruction to your fleet commanders: move. If they move, the engagement ends. If they do not move, he paused, and something passed across his face that was not quite an expression anyone in the chamber could name. Not anger. Not hatred. Certainty. We will move them. He cut the transmission. Varek recalled the blockade. He spent 3 hours debating it with himself and arrived at the only conclusion a rational mind could reach when staring at the technical specifications of a MAC cannon versus his fleet's shield ratings. The Hesper Belt negotiations resumed this time, with Earth at the table as an equal party. The resource tax was quietly dropped. The colonial supply lines reopened. Humanity received no apology. They did not ask for one. When a junior diplomatic aide later asked Admiral Nathan what he would have done if the conclave had called the bluff, if they had held the line and let the Thermopylae reach the blockade, he looked at her for a moment. It wasn't a bluff, he said. She blinked. Sir? A bluff, Nathan said, turning back to his display, is when you don't mean it. He pulled up the Thermopylae's course logs. We always mean it. Somewhere in the Mira cluster, Commander Varek filed his after-action report. In the section marked Strategic Assessment of Human Military Doctrine, he wrote a single line, the most honest thing he had produced in 20 years of command. Do not mistake their patience for hesitation. They were not waiting for a reason to fight. They were waiting for us to give them one. He paused, then added one more line. Do not give them one.